My brother handed me a legal document across the table at Starbucks and said, "Sign this before Saturday, or don't come to the party." I looked down at the non-disclosure agreement. The words financial assistance and confidential benefactor jumping off the page in cold legal text. The same hands that I'd watched tremble 3 years ago while signing bankruptcy papers were now steady, manicured, and waiting for my signature with the impatience of someone who had places to be. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. My name is Vanessa. I'm 41 years old and I'm a venture capitalist in Boston. My job is to identify failing businesses, inject capital, and extract profit. I live in spreadsheets and risk assessments. I can smell a bad investment from 3 fiscal quarters away. The irony is that the worst investment I ever made wasn't a tech startup or a restaurant chain. It was my own brother. His name is Derek. He's 38, an orthopedic surgeon, and until 3 years ago, he was a complete financial disaster wrapped in a white coat and a god complex. But let me rewind, because you need to understand the receipts. I keep receipts. It's literally my profession. 3 years ago, Derek called me at 2 a.m. His voice was shaking in that specific way that meant his life was imploding. "Vanessa, I need help." Real help. He'd been sued for malpractice of surgery that went wrong, a patient who'd hired an aggressive attorney, and a settlement that bankrupted him, $340,000 in debt. His credit score was 487. No bank would touch him, his medical license was intact. But his ability to practice was destroyed. He couldn't get malpractice insurance, he couldn't lease equipment, he couldn't even rent office space. "I'm going to have to leave medicine," he'd said, and I heard him cry for the first time since we were children. So I did what I always do. I fixed it. I'm a venture capitalist. I see opportunities where others see disasters. Derek had skills, a license, and a patient base that still trusted him despite the lawsuit. What he didn't have was capital. So the first became his capital. I bought him a surgical practice, not just equipment, an entire practice, a small orthopedic clinic in Newton that was being sold by a retiring doctor, the building, the equipment, the existing patient files, the staff contracts. Everything. I had one condition: transparency. If anyone asked, he would tell the truth. I wasn't asking him to shout it from the rooftops, but I wasn't going to be erased either. He'd agreed. He'd hugged me. He'd cried again and said, "You saved my life, Vanessa. I'll never forget this." For 3 years. The practice thrived. Derek rebuilt his reputation one surgery at a time. The debt was being paid down, the profit sharing was working. I watched from a distance, checking quarterly reports, attending the occasional board meeting I'd insisted on. I wasn't involved in the day-to-day operations, but I was never hidden. I was the investor, that was the deal, until Saturday, until the engagement party, until the NDA. I looked at my brother across the coffee shop table. Why do I need to sign this? Derek didn't even have the decency to look uncomfortable. Isabel's family is very traditional, old money. Her father is a cardiac surgeon at Mass General. They value self-made success. If they know I had financial help, it changes the narrative. The narrative, I repeated slowly. They think I'm self-made, Vanessa. They think I built the practice from the ground up after the lawsuit. It's a better story. Isabel's father respects that. If he finds out I had an investor, especially a family investor, he trailed off, but the implication was clear. I was a problem. My help was an embarrassment. I am not an investor, Derek. I'm your majority shareholder. I own 80% of your practice. He waved his hand dismissively. It's a technicality. You're not involved. You just provided initial capital. That's what investors do. But Isabel's family doesn't need to know the details. The NDA just says you won't discuss the financial structure of the practice with anyone at the party. That's it. It's not a big deal. You want me to pretend I don't exist. I want you to be discreet. There's a difference. He slid a pen across the table. Sign it, Vanessa. Don't make this difficult. I looked at the pen. I looked at my brother. I looked at the man I'd saved, who was now asking me to sign away my right to acknowledge my own generosity. And I smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile I use right before I pull funding from a failing startup. It's the smile that says, I see exactly who you are, and you're about to learn a very expensive lesson. I'll think about it, I said. Derek's face tightened. The party is Saturday. I need this signed by tomorrow, then I guess you'll be waiting anxiously. I stood up, left the NDA on the table, and walked out. I didn't go home. I went to my office. I sat at my desk overlooking the Boston skyline, opened my laptop, and I did what I do best. I audited my investment. The business registry was public record. I logged into the Massachusetts Secretary of State's website and pulled up the corporate filings for Newton Orthopedic Solutions LLC. There it was, clear as day, Vanessa Catherine Moreno, 80% ownership. Derek James Moreno, 20% ownership, filed 3 years ago, never amended. I pulled the operating agreement, I pulled the profit-sharing structure, I pulled the equipment lease, which was in my name, I pulled the malpractice insurance policy, which I'd personally guaranteed. I pulled every single document. And I read them like I was preparing to gut a company, and then I saw it. Clause 7.3, Transfer of ownership. In the event that the majority shareholder wishes to sell their stake, they retain the right to do so without approval from minority shareholders, provided proper notification is given 72 hours in advance. I leaned back in my chair. I looked at the clock. It was to 17 p.m. on Thursday. Derek's engagement party was Saturday at 6 p.m. That gave me 52 hours. I opened my contacts. I scrolled to a name I hadn't called in 6 months, Dr. Philip Garrison. Philip ran the largest orthopedic group in Boston. He was aggressive, competitive. And he'd been trying to buy up smaller practices in the Newton area for 2 years. Derek hated him. They'd gone to medical school together. And Philip had always been everything Derek wasn't: successful, self-made, and ruthless. I called him. He answered on the second ring. Vanessa Moreno. It's been a while. Philip, I have a business opportunity for you. Are you still looking to expand into Newton? There was a pause. I could hear the grin in his voice. I'm listening. Newton Orthopedic Solutions, full practice. Established patient base, clean financials. I'm the majority owner. I'm selling my 80% stake. Derek Moreno's practice. Philippe's voice sharpened. That's interesting. What's the ask? $340,000. Same price I paid. I want a clean exit, and I want it done by Saturday morning. That's fast. That's the deal. You have until tomorrow at 5 p.m. to give me an answer. If you say yes, we'll have the paperwork done by Saturday at noon. Take it or leave it. Philip laughed. It was the laugh of a man who'd just been handed a gift. I'll take it. Send me the docs. I hung up. I called my corporate attorney. I need a sale of business assets drafted by tomorrow morning. Full transfer of my 80% stake in Newton Orthopedic Solutions to a new buyer. I need it clean, fast, and airtight. She didn't ask questions. That's why I pay her $600 an hour. Friday morning, the paperwork was done. Philippe's attorney reviewed it. Philip wired $340,000 into my account by 3 p.m. By 5 p.m., the transfer was filed with the state by 6 p.m. Philip Garrison owned 80% of Derek's practice. And Derek owned 20% of a business that was now controlled by the man he hated most in the world. I didn't tell Derek. The 72-hour notification clause required me to notify him of my intent to sell. It didn't require his approval. I sent the email at 6:02 p.m. on Friday. Subject: Notice of Ownership Transfer, Newton Orthopedic Solutions LLC Derek. Per Clause 7.3 of our operating agreement, I am notifying you that I have sold my 80% ownership stake in Newton Orthopedic Solutions LLC to Dr. Philip Garrison, effective immediately. All transfer documents have been filed with the state. Dr. Garrison will be reaching out to you Monday morning to discuss the transition. Best regards, Vanessa. I didn't get a response. Not that night. Not Saturday morning. I assumed Derek was busy preparing for his engagement party, choosing his outfit, rehearsing the story of how he'd built his practice from nothing with just his talent and determination. I went to the party. I didn't RSVP. I just showed up. The engagement party was at a country club in Wellesley. Old money, exactly as Derek had described. I walked in wearing a black suit, my hair pulled back, looking exactly like what I was, a woman who just liquidated a $340,000 asset and felt nothing. Derek saw me immediately. His face went white. He crossed the room so fast he nearly knocked over a waiter carrying champagne. "What did you do?" His voice was a hiss, low and desperate. "I sold my stake." "You got their mail. You sold it to Philip Garrison? Are you insane?" "I sold it to the highest bidder who could close by Saturday. That happened to be Philip. He was very motivated. You destroyed me." Derek's hands were shaking. "He's going to gut the practice. He's going to push me out. You know what he's like." "Derek, I know exactly what he's like. He's a businessman. Just like me." I looked past Derek to where a beautiful woman in a cream dress was watching us with concern. "Is that Isabel?" Derek grabbed my arm. "You need to fix this. You need to call him and reverse it." I looked at his hand on my arm, then back at his face. "The sale is final. The money is in my account. And frankly, Derek, you should be thanking me." "Thanking you. You wanted to be self-made. Now you are. You own 20% of a practice, and you answer to a real investor who doesn't care about your feelings. That's what self-made looks like. Congratulations." Isabel walked over, her smile polite but strained. "Derek, darling. Is everything okay?" Derek's face did something complicated. He looked at me, then at Isabel. Then back at me. I could see him trying to calculate how to explain this. How to spin it. How to control the narrative. I didn't wait for him to figure it out. I turned to Isabel and extended my hand. "Hi, I'm Vanessa. Derek's sister. And until yesterday, I was the majority owner of his surgical practice. I bought it for him 3 years ago when his credit was destroyed and no bank would touch him. I just sold my stake to his biggest competitor because Derek asked me to sign an NDA so your family wouldn't know I existed." Isabel's smile froze. Her hand went limp in mine. "I'm sorry, what?" Derek looked like he was going to be sick. "Vanessa, stop." But I didn't stop. I pulled out my phone. I opened my email and showed Isabel the purchase agreement from 3 years ago. The operating agreement with my name as majority shareholder, the sale confirmation from yesterday. These are the receipts. I said, your fiancé didn't build his practice. I did. And when he asked me to pretend I didn't exist, I decided to actually exit. So now he's partnered with a man who will absolutely make his life miserable. But hey, at least the narrative is clean. I put my phone away. I looked at Derek one last time. You wanted me to be discreet. I've never been more discreet in my life. I didn't make a scene. I didn't argue. I just removed myself from the story entirely. Enjoy your party, Derek. Enjoy your self-made success. I walked out. I didn't look back. The fallout was immediate and surgical. Philip Garrison called Derek on Monday morning and informed him that as the new majority owner, he'd be restructuring the practice. Derek's salary was cut. His office was moved to a smaller space. His autonomy was gone. He was no longer the owner of his dream. He was an employee in a company that now carried Philippe's name. Derek called me 17 times that week. I didn't answer. He sent him mails. I didn't read them. He showed up at my office. Security escorted him out. Isabel called off the engagement 6 days later. I heard through family gossip that her father had done some digging and discovered the full scope of Derek's financial history: the malpractice suit, the bankruptcy, the NDA request. Turned out old money doesn't like liars, even self-made ones. My mother called me furious. How could you do this to your brother? You've destroyed his life. No, Mom, I said, my voice calm. I saved his life 3 years ago. And this week, I just stopped saving it. There's a difference. She hung up on me. It's been 2 months. Derek still works at the practice, but it's not his anymore. Philip runs it with the efficiency of a corporate machine. I heard Derek is looking for other opportunities, trying to rebuild again, but this time without a sister willing to write the check. I took the $340, zero from the sale, and donated it to a foundation that helps medical professionals recover from malpractice suits, professionals who don't have a venture capitalist sister to bail them out. I didn't do it to be noble. I did it because the money felt dirty. It felt like the price I'd paid to learn that generosity without boundaries is just self-destructs with better PR. This morning I'm sitting in my office, the same office where I made the call that changed everything. The coffee in my hand is still hot. The city below is waking up. My calendar is full of meetings, pitches, and opportunities. My phone hasn't buzzed with a family crisis in weeks. I close my eyes and I don't feel guilty. I don't feel vindictive. I just feel solvent. I liquidated a failing asset. I cut my losses. I protected my resources. And for the first time in 3 years, I'm not my brother's backup plan. I'm not his safety net. I'm not his secret. I'm just Vanessa, venture capitalist, 80% shareholder of nothing that bears his name, and that, finally, feels like a good investment.